Hello, everyone. Hal Levy at payment.com once again for this conversation. Rob Seidman, who leads Advance at US Bank, joining me. We're going to have a pretty detailed discussion on the changing service economy and what next for everybody from payment processors to fintech aggregators and in between. Rob, welcome. It's nice to have you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
So let's discuss this first. When you're looking at the primary drivers for payment processors that want to expand value-added services, um, it can be a broad strategy, but I think we are looking at a different environment for traditional network relationships, and that's going to be changing. So what do you see there?
The demand from our customers for different unique services and value added services being added to what we provide traditionally in terms of payment acquiring is growing. So I think it's more sophisticated payment world than it was 10, 15 years ago. The addition of new payment types, global issues, currency issues, and also the rise of fraud, identity, all those things, not rise of, but the evolution of those issues that you have to deal with. Everything from, fraud to chargeback management to surcharging, the changing regulatory environment. It just demands that, we as acquirers and fintechs and banks evolve with it. And the demands of the merchants and customers that use our services are growing equal to the complexity with the world in which they serve. So, it's easier than ever to start a business, build a commerce platform, um, um, to need our services, and we need to evolve with that, right? With the speed with which we're needed, and the services that are demanded, that come with the immediacy of everything, the security needs, the safety needs, all those things matter to us. So it just drives the demand for how we evolve and what we offer to the market as well.
Yeah, to your point that it's easier than ever to start a business, right? So you can get it off the ground, but then to grow and maybe thrive, or at least in this environment, survive, that's a different thing, right? So when we think about the way you conceptually position yourself as a comprehensive solution provider, that has a few nuts and bolts in the mix. So is there a linear path to do that? Are there certain things that businesses as they launch don't know they need, maybe think they don't need, and then they do. And then as they start to scale, really the complexity that needs to be simplified becomes a difficult task. So what are you seeing there?
There's no such thing as a linear path that I've seen to either start a business, be part of a startup, or even be a service provider to businesses. I've never seen a linear path in my career. Maybe it's just what I've witnessed, but um, I do think there's so many options and choices about from everything from a platform you choose to put your business on, to the tooling that you surround it with, the data that you can get access to, um, as well as when you start growth, like how you embed everything from marketing and loyalty and reward systems all in one. I mean, that was a disparate world, not long ago. So I think the commerce platforms has kind of changed the market a bit, and even folks that aren't kind of e-commerce oriented, the tooling is so much better, whether it comes from a bank like ours that comes with an acquiring suite, along with the point of sale lending solution, along with surcharging capability and a whole bunch of value added services built into the tooling. Right when you come to our bank to start your business and open your DDA and get your acquiring account, like there's a whole world open to you that you can start there. You can also start with everything from accounting software to a commerce platform. Like any given starting point to any given endpoint of how you want your business to run, what tooling you want involved in it, how you do banking, what payment products you want in it, has evolved incredibly rapidly. And I think it creates the need for an omnipresent solution. So banks like ours, we have obviously a large acquiring business. We have a point of sale lending offer, which Advance, which I lead. And we have a series of value added services that go hand in hand with a company needing it as they grow. The tools you need and the expertise you need is fully built into the product, and we'll grow. We're already there. As you grow, you just start adding on what you need, and it's valuable. But what you know you need when you start, and what you need, 1 year, 3 years, 5 years into your journey, will evolve rapidly. And the question is, do we surface that to you at the right time, such that you understand that this is a value add to you that is going to be incredibly valuable to the bottom line or to top line growth, however you're thinking about what's necessary for your business at that given time. So our evolution matches the evolution of the underlying company and what they intend to do. We want to make sure that we can help them do that.
When you're looking at the evolution of this space, right? So we have an evolution too in the competitive environment itself. So you've got processors and fintechs that are evolving into what some would call fintech aggregators, and there are partnerships and there are collaborations and there are competition in the
Yeah.
mix. Now, how is this all shaking out? I mean, where are you
Yeah.
seeing the natural synergy of collaboration? Where
Yeah.
is there a bifurcation where there's a competition?
Yeah. I think the optimal term here is the co-opetition moniker, right? I think it comes from a few different places. One is you could look at it as comparative advantage, almost like trade, right? I do this, really, really well, and I offer it as a standalone service. So I may buy something from a competitor that is just a really good service that is embedded. It's known in the market. It's known to consumers, and I'm going to offer it through my platform. Advance is a good, what the business I run is a good example. Like we are a U.S. bank product. We can be coupled with acquiring, or it would be uncoupled and be sold standalone. And we do partner with competitors to offer our product as a standalone point of sale lending solution. That's an example. But there are lots of examples. So going back to that comparative advantage, analogy, that's actually what's happening, right? Is that competitors often offer underlying products from others that just do a good job or fully adopted in the marketplace. The second is around M&A, right? So sometimes you partner with a fintech, they become a part of your platform, and the fintech gets bought. Like oftentimes that is the natural evolution is, a service provider into another service provider gets purchased by a larger one. And next thing you know, part of your infrastructure is owned by a competitor. And you have choices to make, right? Sometimes contractually they'll force you to make some choices, and other times you'll make choices based on what's in the best interest of your customers and your institution. But to me, that's really fascinating part about this idea of co-opetition or competition amongst ourselves, along with underlying products and services that may or may not be owned by us. And last is I would just say one of the driving forces in the idea of comparative, of this competition space is it's never easy to start a business, but if you are a fintech, I'm finding in my personal experience, specialization in fintech tooling is robust. And so you see a lot of a constellation of fintechs that do very specific services on behalf of larger fintechs or other companies or other commerce platforms. And those are interesting, right? Like we may offer a service comparable, but we also may partner because it's built into tooling in other places that we operate. So for those three, that's how kind of I view the world, is like this idea of comparative advantage, just choosing the best and embedding it. Second is kind of an M&A route, which is you choose and it gets absorbed. And then third is like the specialized, you go with the constellation of specialized small guys, even though you may offer something similar to it. So that's how we kind of view the world.
Whether it's collaborative or competitive or co-opetition hybrid, I think there are some common goals in improving the end user experience. And you had touched on this earlier, but I'd like to get a sense from you what the emerging enhancement, digital fraud, security,
Yeah.
faster checkout. What's the low-hanging fruit for right now, right, to improve that end user experience? And then what are we going to see longer term? What are the guiding principles
Yeah.
aspirational goals that we
Yeah.
could see?
I mean, the holy grail of everything is frictionless experiences for your customers, right? We all strive for great user experiences. Um, for me, the underlying components to that are, I'll call out two things that I find most upfront right now. One is tokenization. The other one is, the rise of wallets. So we play in a space where, we're in checkout flows. You're at point of sale. Everything is digital. Everything is real time. What that demands of us, because we operate in that way, is number one, identity and safety built in. And then secondly is speed, right? Speed, friction, right? You have to grapple with the idea that someone is there to do something like make a purchase or buy a service or inquire. And your job is to make sure that they can do that as quickly and seamlessly and frictionlessly as possible, but while also providing the right level of safety and security with which they demand. So from my perspective, I think the future state of tokenization, identity, more around identity than it could be payment method as well. But tokenization to me as a concept is pretty fascinating on the forefront of what we're thinking about. The second is the rise of wallets. There's a couple of dominant wallets and a whole lot of smaller wallets, but like the idea of stored value and how you use them with your identity to move around, you know, in your life as a consumer or even as in B2B scenarios, that will become more and more important over time from our perspective, right? And whether it's what's on your phone, how you carry it around offline. Like if you put those two things together, kind of tokenization and wallets or stored value, I think those are really interesting um, uh, things that we all have to care for on a go forward basis.
Is there a movement, if we start to look at the global stage for payments, right? The world is the stage for it. A lot of complexity is introduced into the mix with multi-currency, global service capabilities. Obviously, things change depending on the market you're in and what the preferred payments are.
Yeah.
And we're all moving toward faster iterations of payment. What do you see in the emergence of borderless payment that sort of brings a lot of what we're talking about here together? What are we seeing that are the critical concern to scale cross borders? And some of these things that we're talking about, regardless of the market, are must-haves. So what do we see there?
So borderless is an interesting. Cryptos has to be talked about, but we'll hold that aside for just a second on the borderless idea. I think for the way I kind of look at the world is it really depends on the user need. Like what type of use cases are you caring for in your platform? Where cross border is necessary, um, um, I do think there's huge demand for simplicity in the cross border space, right? It's complicated, right? Also caring for currency and currency valuations when you have volatility in value in currency. I think it adds to what is necessary to carry out successful cross border payments and payment strategy. So I think there's multiple layers in the international and cross currency, cross border payments world. Um, um, I think we're in a unique moment, is how I would say it. If you asked me 10 years ago when I did B2B and global treasury type work, I would have had a totally different answer than I do today. Crypto has changed it. Wallets have changed it. Tokenization has changed it. In addition to volatility in the market itself, like what is needed to carry out multi-currency cross-border and do it successfully and hedge properly. Like these are different times right now. Like right now specifically is a different and unique time for what I think you'd have to care for. But again, if you serve larger businesses that have real cross-border needs, it's a ripe time to have the best set of rails and the most amount of choices you've ever had with the best tooling that I've ever seen. Um, but and that's everything from like corporate and B2B payments all the way down to how small businesses do small dollar movements or even remittances. I think all of those things are up for grabs on a go forward basis. I wish I had a crystal ball on this. Would be a good betting proposition, but I don't. I would just say, like, in the age of volatility that we're in, it's going to be important to have stability in the providers you choose and the tools they offer and the certainty that they provide. That's how I would couch that.
So on that note, the last question is a general one. Is there anything we've missed that we haven't discussed, or are there any final thoughts you want to leave us with for this conversation?
Evolution in the space, every segment is evolving quickly, right? I think you can't leave a conversation behind without talking AI. You can't leave a conversation behind without talking about the future state of regulatory regimes, both in the U.S. and outside the U.S. and across multiple jurisdictions. I do think that in the next 3 to 5 years, the introduction of and normalization of AI into all aspects of banking, payments, acquiring, fraud, identity, will transform us. I again, not a prediction type guy, but as we think about what we're building and how we're focused, we do point of sale lending for Advance. So we have a high amount of interest in the evolution of the credit space, the evolution of the payment space. So more to come on that, but I certainly think you can't leave a conversation behind without talking about those topics.
All right. So yes, you ended it with the idea. You're right. You can't get out of a conversation without using the term AI. We did it. So thanks so much, Rob. It's been great to have you, and I appreciate the comment.
Thanks for the conversation. I appreciate it.